There are two types of people in this world. You've heard that opening line for a lot of different subjects, so we could take this in a lot of different ways, but I'll go this route today. Two types of people in this world. There are the people that wake you up very calmly, very gently, very compassionately, very understanding of the state of most people first thing in the morning. Hey, wake up. It's time to wake up. Time to get up. You all know who I'm talking about, whether that's significant other, whether that's been your parents in the past, whoever that was in your life, especially pre-cell phone and all of that. Sometimes we relied on somebody at some point in our life to wake us up. And there were always those kind, gentle people, typically a female, maybe not. And then on the other hand, you've got your other type of person that's like the drill sergeant, get up, time to get up. What's wrong with you? Get up. Practically kick you in the side to get you up. No understanding, no compassion for you needing that gentle. So regardless of what you need this morning, I guess I gave you both. So I know what I would want to have for me this morning, because I kind of bragged the last two mornings about, okay, I got this morning thing down and I am more wide awake than I've been in forever. For the entirety of the legacy of this show that has gone on for generations, the last 2 days, Monday and Tuesday, was more awake, more alive, alert, coherent, ready to talk than since the start of the show. This morning on a Wednesday and a hump day, it's back to... Now, I didn't drag myself out of bed. I got out of bed pretty quickly. Got involved in something on my phone. That's always a bad thing. Got to set the phone down at certain times of the day. I'm not a phone addict guy, but first of all, I've got this business that we all see here at the Voice of College Football that keeps me connected to... I counted the other day, we've got over 20 contributors if we count everybody involved, everybody that contributes on air that you see across the network in regards to people that I need to keep track of, have certain transactions with, certain communications with on a at least weekly basis, many of them practically daily. So a lot of people to keep track of. And then, of course, you got the litany of everything else. So you grab your phone. I got to shut off my alarm. It's gone off. 7:06 is the new time. Why? I don't know. 7:03, went to 7:09, went to 17 something. And now we're back to 7:06 because I wanted to, okay, Mark, you're starting to let this slide a little bit. Bring it back to 7:06. So that all to say that we're here for an 11th edition, and I so much appreciate everybody that stops by, whether you can join us for the entire time or you only have time to grab a bagel, grab your suitcase, your briefcase, your whatever you do in the morning, everything that you grab here and there to get yourself ready for work and to get out the door, and then you click us on for 30 seconds just to check in. Whatever it is, we appreciate you being here. This is Wake Up College Football. This is our endeavor to branch off a little bit, do something different here at the Voice of College Football. I've thought about this for a long time. Do a morning show, Mark. And I'm not a cook, can't cook. Can I technically cook? Yes, I can technically cook. I've actually done fairly well when I've put my mind to it. I've been able to put together something reasonable from time to time, but I don't enjoy the cooking process. And I'm not particularly good at it. I've got to have a game plan. I've got to have a recipe. But cooking just seems to be part of the kitchen look, the cooking, all of that seems to be part of the morning show look and feel and vibe that we've grown up with. And I wanted this show to be a little bit different. So Wake Up College Football with a different branding, with a different look. So if this is the first time you've joined us, this is the intent, to be a little softer, a little less hardcore college football than we are throughout the day. However, we do talk college football, and I can see from the chat that there is no stopping some of you from talking college football all the time. As early in the morning as possible, you are still talking college football, and hey, we love you for it. So we will always check the chat, check on all of you. I checked on the headlines. I took a sneak peek. The intent with the morning headlines is, of course, we take in the morning headlines together. We see them for the first time. Again, just like we're going old school, morning newspaper. You open the front door, you get your morning newspaper. Hopefully it's not covered with leaves or wet or anything like that. You grab the morning newspaper, you bring it in, you pop it open, and you get those sports headlines for the first time and look through your favorite teams and your favorite stories, and it's fresh. So that's the intent here. We have no idea what the headlines are. We jump into them. We've gone to ESPN's list of headlines and news of the day. As I've let you know every day, hey, if you've got a source of college football news that you would like us to access, national college football, we will pay. For many of you, you had like 3 different newspapers come to the door. Those were the real news hounds out there that I knew that read 3 and 4 newspapers a day. That was never me. That was never me. I'm not going to go down that path of my news history of partaking in news. Let's get to all of you. Let's see who's in the chat. Let's get to the headlines. This is a big shock. Jackson's here first and saying, good morning, College Football Nation. Jackson, we appreciate you being here. You know that. Also want to take note of the mic situation once again today. We were so proud, so happy, so overjoyed to have our wireless mic arrive, to use it for 4 or 5 shows. It worked fine, sounded fine. I could go to the refrigerator. I could walk around. Everything was fine. Last 2 days, for some reason, it has not connected. So it's back to the drawing board and back to the instructions, I guess, because it's a very simple process. This item is charged. This item is charged. You press these 2 buttons simultaneously. Boom, they connect to each other. You jump onto StreamYard and you connect it there, and you're all set. It's a couple clicks. It's a couple steps. But for some reason, the last 2 days, it has not happened for me. So we've got the desk mic. And again, I explained yesterday the amount of red tape and the procedure that we have to go through here at the Voice of College Football to move a mic from one set to the other. It's quite the lengthy process, quite the procedure to get both staffs on board, make sure the paperwork is filled out, and that everybody's on board with that. So there's not a controversy here later in the day that they stole our mic, we're short of mic, none of that. So the staff's all in sync with that. So once again, unfortunately, not the wireless mic. We will look into that. And I would love to promise you that that will be looked into today, but it probably won't be. I just know. I was on the phone in a meeting yesterday with somebody, and without getting into details, this was not a potential sponsor, but it is a business. It's an outfit that helps to get sponsors. It's basically a training program that's a really good program from all that I can tell. And it's a very reputable company for a lot of reasons. They've hung with me for the last year in regards to getting this done. And it was my intent that this would be done by somebody else. They would go through the training, they would take us through, boom, get the sponsor. But in the situations that occurred after that, so it's kind of on me to go through this training, get a sponsor, do all this. So I have to really credit this company for staying after me on this, because it's long since been the deadline's passed and so forth. And so I'm not technically under the umbrella anymore. I've just dished out the money for all this training and it's not getting done. And the woman contacts me yesterday. This was not a planned call. She calls me out of nowhere, just wants to make sure that I'm on track, that I'm going through the curriculum, that I'm trying to learn all this stuff. And I was like, she said, how many hours do you have each week to devote to this? Because we typically would like 6 to 8 hours devoted to this. And I said, which answer do you want? I'm sorry, because the answer would be I would give up 6 to 8 hours of other things, and then I would devote to this and get this done. Or the real answer, based on what everything's going on right now, the answer is 0. And she's like, well, come on, what kind of time do you have? Could you carve out in the day? And I'm like, 0. Like, I'm not going past 100 hours. So we're going to cap the workday or the work week at 100 hours here. So we've capped that off. So we've got no time to do this. But it's one of those things, and you, in your busy lives, have come across this, I'm sure, many times, where you're like, I don't have time for anything more. Have 0 time. I'm running around doing this and that. It's all day, it's all night, it's constant, and that's not even enough. So I've got no time to add anything else. But if you come across something that's worth it, then you have to say, it's going to get done one way or the other, and I'm just going to have to eliminate X, Y, and Z. I had the thought the other day, which is not going to happen because we can't really afford, for a number of reasons, can't afford for it to happen. But I thought we should shut down everything for a month. And I don't even know if that would be enough time to get everything done that needs to get done behind the scenes. I don't think that would be enough time, but it would be nice to shut everything down, do no shows, no content for a month, say, everybody, we will see you in a month. And then we could go to work on all this other stuff that needs to get done that just lags for month after month after month into year after year after year. That would be the way to do it. Shut everything down for a month and come back better, bigger, bolder, all those other B words, better than ever. But we are not going to do that. All right, folks, where are we? Ralph's here. Ralph cut his lawn at 7:15 in the morning. I could make some comments about that, but I'm not your neighbor, so go at it, Ralph. Gerard, Franklin's here, Tim's here, JR's rankings. JR doing a heck of a job. Check out JR's posts on the Ohio State channel, so you can check out JR's work right here at the Voice of College Football on the Ohio State channel. He posts a video just about once a week, maybe a little bit more than that if there's news out there. Good morning to Porter. Good to see Porter. Porter, one of our stalwarts here at the Voice of College Football. Morning workout. I hate to work out in the morning. I hate it. I don't do it. A couple different reasons. Number one, I'm not a morning person. Number two, I get right to work. Number three, my mornings aren't early. This is a stretch for me to get up at 7 in the morning. And then obviously I'm doing this. And then I've got something else at 9:30 that's popped up on me in the last few days, weeks. And then today I've got a 10 o'clock appointment, 11 o'clock appointment, noon appointment, 12:30. I'm not free till about 1:30. So that kind of kills. Now, I could have set my alarm for 6, worked out for 45, 50 minutes and done that, but I went to sleep at like 2:30 or 3. So yeah, in my bones, my joints, none of it works well. Like if you ask me to touch my toes right now, forget it. I'm not touching my toes. You ask me to touch my toes. Even if I don't stretch, work out, do anything like that, ask me to touch my toes at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I can touch my toes. My body just functions. It gets loosened up, revved up, the blood flowing. I would like to, I would like to be able to work out at the same time every day, but the schedule's different every day. This is another thing I run into every day all over the place. I run into this where people will say to me, oh, what's the best time for you? And we'll be setting up a meeting for a week from now, 2 weeks from now. What's the best time for you? It depends on the day. And then it doesn't only just depend on the day, it depends on that particular day that week. Every day is different. It's tough for me to say mornings are better, afternoons are better. No, that doesn't exist. So it's just whenever we can make it happen. But I would like to work out after noon, but certainly before 6 or 7 o'clock. I've noticed here in the last year or two, I got into a bit of a run there for about a year before I moved from Connecticut, where I was working out mid to late afternoon. I'd find a gap. The gym was like 2 minutes away. Boom, it was perfect. Get it in. I felt awake and alive, but it was before I got worn down in the evening. That was the perfect time. Not been able to figure out that time. I also have a whole gym membership thing going on here where I don't know. I don't believe I want to keep my gym membership for two particular reasons. One, I won't mention. Two, that the gym, it's a national brand. They were close where I lived last. Now it's more like 22 minutes away. Not driving 22 minutes to a gym. There's the why. There's a workout place on site here. There's a few different options. So I'm in the process of basically, I haven't been to the gym in 8-9 weeks, something like that, because I've been here for X number of weeks. I didn't work out, go to the gym because I was so busy moving and doing things before I moved. That was a couple weeks. Yeah, I've done a lot of walking. I've worked out at home. I have worked out at home because I got an app. I think I talked about this yesterday. Got an app. And this is not like for me to get an app, but I think it's called Better Me. And it's a pretty good little deal. You get your workout every day. You do their workout. They're a little heavy on the lower body. I let them know that I want a well-rounded me. So anyway, working out. We've got the Rebel Walk here. This might be our friend Evie. It could be somebody else at the Rebel Walk, but probably Evie. So thank you so much for that, Evie. Good to see you here. Good morning to you as well. Johnny, champs, the 2023 champs. That is correct. D-Rock Irish, good morning to you, sir. Thanks for being here every day. Franklin Fanatic, we've picked him up here in the last few days, and good to see him. He's been commenting all over the place. 6 mile walk. I think you've got somebody else beat by 1 mile. That might be D-Rock Irish, who mentioned the other day that they do a 5 mile walk. I walk almost every day. I feel like an old man doing that, actually, but the last place I lived in Connecticut, the topography, I don't use that word very often, but the topography around my home was, oh man, if you've ever been to Connecticut, I'm not going to call it Colorado exactly, but it's mountainous. So hills all over the place, like high grade climbs all over the place, to the point where if there was ice and snow, difficult to drive up to my home once I got into the development, all of that. There was actually one night where I had to park my car maybe a half mile away. I'm walking home. It's like a sheet of ice, and I can't even walk up the street. Like I had to get in the grass. Anyway, hilly, very, very hilly. And so that was more of a challenge. I enjoyed those walks. I got to say, that's the one thing I miss about Connecticut. What else do I miss? I can think of one other thing. That would be my kids. But besides that, I do miss my walks in Connecticut because it was actually a workout that you were climbing up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down. In Ohio, here, flat, not much of a workout. I feel like an old man going out for a walk, and maybe I am, but I do it. And I do it for a couple of different reasons. It's kind of for the exercise, but it's also just to get a breath of fresh air. And when you sit on a laptop all day, you know that you got to get up and you got to move every so often. And I'm trying to do that more often, where every couple hours I'm like, I'm just going to walk the block real quick, go out, walk around. So it's really not a workout. Keeps the blood flowing. It's good for the anatomy. But so there's got to be a workout during the day for me, other than just walking around for. So you guys have set 6 miles, 5 miles. Mine turns out to be, it might be 2 miles one day, 4 miles the next day. It's all over the place. I just go out and walk around a little bit. Ralph's here, and he's talking directly to me, and he's asking me to remind people of something. Double check their subscribe button. Thank you for that, Ralph. YouTube has been having an issue with this the past week. Some content creators are passing it along, gaming people. So I don't know what that's all about, but check your subscribe button. Maybe they're taking that off. I will say this. Now that you bring that up, Ralph, we have gained less subscribers in the last 2 to 3 months than we ever have, like flat line. And we've never flatlined. So I don't know if that's what that's all about. YouTube did tell us a couple of years ago that they were taking inventory. But before, if you subscribe to a channel, unless you actively unsubscribe to the channel, then you could stay subscribed to channels forever. Now, they told us at least that they were monitoring everyone, and that at a certain point, if that particular person did not watch your content, then they would unsubscribe them. If it had been a year, I don't know what the time frame was, let's say a year since somebody watched a video of yours or any content, they would unsubscribe them. And I've heard from other content creators that they've had 200-300 subscribers drop like that. I've never had that. We have just grinded to a halt when it comes to growth in terms of subscribers, where for a good couple years, I was picking up anywhere from 800 to 1,200 subscribers, and notice that I almost always say we picked up that many subscribers. I caught myself there because I said it's we picked up that many subscribers. Always hated those bosses and hated those leaders that I can think of one jerk in particular, worst person I ever worked for. Didn't work for him. I worked for a company. He happened to be in the company above me, but he was I on everything. Didn't know how to talk to the staff. I did this. I did that. This is my plan. Just couldn't make that simple tweak. And with some people, it's not intentional. They just speak like that. And it's not like they're mean-spirited or they're bad people in that sense. It's just simply that that's the way they talk, and they just need a little adjustment. With him, no, that was the intent. But always, we try to talk here at the Voice of College Football. We do this because I do none of this on my own. Back to the subscribers. We would tack on 800 to more like 1,200 for a long time. 1,200 a month. In the last month, we picked up 40 subscribers. And we're looking for 100,000. That's the goal. We're never going to get there. I'm going to be long gone at this rate. So yeah, something's happened there. Whether that's just people are disinterested or that's YouTube doing something. Who knows? I sometimes question a lot of things that we put out on the channel at times because sometimes bad content, or let me term it this way, regardless of whether you think it's good or bad, if it's not popular, then it suppresses everything else that could be popular. And yeah, the subscriber count has just waned, although I put out some content yesterday. And this needs to be a more frequent situation where I caught a news story. I was in the midst of doing 3 other things, but I thought, nope, I got to jump on this, put these other things on hold. And I was going to deliver under the radar games to you all, under the radar matchups for 2024. But it came out a Dennis Dodd story. I believe it was from Dennis Dodd, just concerning another step in the whole NCAA lawsuit concerning NIL and the role of the Big Ten and the SEC and all of that. So we went through that article. I gave my opinions, put it out there. I noticed this morning that piece of content has tacked on like 15 or 20 subscribers. So there still is hope. There still is a way to get to more people. But Ralph, thank you for that, for whatever that is. People check their subscriber status. Just make sure you're subscribed. Doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't even mean YouTube will push my videos your way. Oh man, Chris Frazier from Spearatics, which reminds me, of course, of our schedule today. And I will talk about the schedule a little bit later, but 6 p.m. Eastern time every Wednesday, I am blessed beyond description to have Chris Frazier from Spearatics, James Coleman, Den Media Group, former Florida State football player, Georgitis, the Renegade Report. We've got a stellar threesome crew for the Florida State show. Wayne's here. Good to see Wayne. And we've got Troy. We've got Sonny. And that's a good reminder right there, Sonny. I've got it on my to-do list. But now that we've got Sonny on board, check out the latest from Sonny and Matthew on the Texas channel. We've got a Texas channel that we relaunched a couple weeks ago. We are going live every Monday night at 7 p.m. Eastern time, talking Texas football on the Texas channel. So please check it out. And let's check out the latest from Sonny. The Longhorns won the 2024 NFL Draft. There could be some pushback there from some Michigan fans, possibly. What that means for Texas football moving forward. That is not just a number that Texas had 11 drafted. Good for them. They finally recruited and developed some people. They've always recruited them. Sark's finally developing them into some good NFL prospects. Yes, that is part of it. However, it is meaningful for Texas football going forward. Join Sonny and Matthew on that video. It's over on the Texas channel. Drufus. Ralph has decided. Oh, I can't believe that, Ralph, that no one wanted you. No. No, cannot believe that. You were just putting yourself out there for the highest bidder, and you were just beyond reach. I think nobody thought they could get you. That was the problem. Talk is pit. Good to see you. Oh, Jared, my apologies. I always stumble on that one. We got Jared with an O, and I see Jared's with E's all the time. I will try to remember that. I cannot promise. I will try to remember that. But I think I can manage that. Yes, let's get to the schedule. Before we hit the headlines, hold up on those headlines. Keep your morning paper right there. Let's get to the schedule. So 11 a.m. Eastern time, we've got Buckeyes Live. Jackson, thank you so much for dropping the link right there on the Ohio State channel. Steve Hellwagon, Kevin Noon, Tony Gerdeman, Buckeyes Live for a 265th consecutive time. That's over 5 years, folks. Every week, Buckeyes Live, 11 a.m. Eastern time. Love them or hate them. It's Ohio State football, so if you're a college football fan, you got to check that out. At noon today, noon Eastern time. I'm sorry, check that. 12:30. I've got another appointment at noon. At 12:30 Eastern time, we got Brian Driscoll here from Irish Breakdown, right here on the main channel. Brian is a wealth of knowledge and insight on college football, Notre Dame in particular. We will scan the Fighting Irish, and I will certainly be hitting Brian up on a number of topics pertaining to Notre Dame and college football. So Brian and I get together to talk college football, talk Notre Dame at the 12:30 Eastern live. So bring your comments and questions for that. So D-Rock, Brian Driscoll, Irish Breakdown, 12:30. You definitely have to be here. Ralph says, I'd love to see Zach Smith get invited to today's Buckeyes Live show. That would be fireworks. I really have no idea what that's all about. I will say that we've got 4 of us on the show. We don't need any more. So, yeah, we have Zach on from time to time. It's not a scheduled once a month or anything specific. Just whenever I think about it, I'll text Zach and have him on. And I actually did a couple of weeks ago, and he did not respond, which typically just means when I've reached out again, just that he's got a zillion text messages and he gets right back to me. So we will have Zach Smith on soon, but not on the Buckeye show, because we've got 4 of us. We don't need 5 people on a show. All right, Eric is here. My alarm didn't go off, so now I'm running late. Yeah, that's always a frantic time. Planks, push-ups, and jumping jacks. Now, I have noticed for me that instead of having some grueling hour-long workout, that to work out a couple times a day in different forms, maybe go out for a quick walk for a couple miles. It takes 20 minutes or whatever it takes. I've never done the math. And then at another time during the day to do something like this. Yeah, just find time in my day just to maybe, bam, you can do that in 10 minutes and then maybe do something else later. I don't know what a trainer, and they're probably not the right people to talk to, a doctor that majors in sports medicine would tell you about, rather than the one long workout, several short workouts during the day. I don't know about that. I know certain tenets of what you're supposed to do. I've worked out my whole life, but I am in no way an expert. Ferris used to do 5K every day. Easy to do that in Flat, Michigan. Harder to do in Carlsbad, California. I've been to Carlsbad once, and it was on vacation with my girlfriend, and we brought my 2 kids. And we were in Carlsbad at a particular location. It was a very nice place, resort type deal. And I just remember it was a great vacation, had a great time. We stopped at a few different places. And yeah, I know that I've heard the reputation of Carlsbad, and I actually stayed there. It's been over 10 years ago, so I can't necessarily remember and differentiate Carlsbad from anywhere else. I don't remember it being, I'm sure it's hilly, you know, the rolling hills of Hollywood and all that. But yeah, I used to do about 4 miles in Connecticut, and it was a workout, especially if you try to keep the pace going. The walks that I take around here, I often think I got to mix in some sprints or something. Porter walks at night after work. Franklin does a 2-hour walk. Whoo! It's hard for me to find 2 hours in my day until it's like too late. I don't want to be walking at 11 o'clock at night. Citizen walked 7 miles yesterday. We've got just a walking crew here. Ferris went to the Red Sox game, $75 to park next to the stadium. I paid $25 to park at the Prudential Center, which is about 3/4 of a mile walk. Literally saves a ton of money to walk. Well, yes, that's similar to when I used to go to Jacobs Field in downtown Cleveland, and the parking, it seemed outrageous at the time. I think it was probably $20 or $25 right across the street from the stadium. I'm like, I'm not paying $25 to park. We're talking at least 10 years ago and before. And I found a parking garage that was only a few blocks away from the stadium. Nobody, virtually, like 3 other people would be there that was going to the game. And I was just astounded that I found this, and I went there every time, and that was just the best place to park. And it was like $3, and it was a nice, enjoyable walk to the stadium, just a couple blocks, $3 to park. Now, again, I'm talking about 10 plus years ago. Walking is mighty good for you. I saw a study, and every time you see a study, you don't know if it's legit. But I saw a study once that walking is just as good for you as running. So there was always a thought that I had, and I think most people, that, well, walking's this good for you and running's that good for you because it's just a better workout. But you've got all that pounding on your joints. The older you get, the worse I would think that is for you. I know that I know a few people that still run at my age. Maybe more than a few, but it just doesn't feel great to be out there running. And I've seen a few studies that says a good pace walking from a fitness standpoint is just as good for you. Erica getting to this. Erica always picks up on these things. She says, I feel like the we thing in corporate is artificial. Yeah. Just like being a family is fake in corporate, the we is real at the Voice of College Football, though. Well, thank you for that, Erica. I want it to be. I certainly want it to be. And that's the intent. And that's the way I've always thought it to be. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. But I know exactly what you're saying there. And that was processing in my mind as I was telling that little story, that for a lot of people, you don't know how authentic that is. And in corporate life, I think yes of them. Many of them were just following in line with what they had been taught as good leaders, managers, that yes, we need to fool everyone into thinking it's a team effort. We, even though they are primarily and solely making the decisions, that it's we, everything is about us. I had a boss of mine, and he was one of the better bosses I've ever had, say to me at one point, it just pained him that our management team wasn't, he just was like, I wish we could just be closer, that we could just be closer and confide in each other. And I'm like, Jerry, it's just not like that. You can't expect 14 people when they have families and they have outside lives to come in here. And let's face it, it's work. It's generally not enjoyable. And for us just to automatically, just because you've thrown 14 people together doesn't mean we're all going to just, they're going to be like these 3 people bond and these 2 over here and these 4 over here. That's what you're going to have. And then you're going to have some stragglers that don't bond with anyone or just generally get along with everyone. whatever. You're not going to have 14 people act like a family. It's just not going to happen, and don't try to make it happen. Uh, my buddy Kevin and I used to joke because at ESPN, we, and the intent was really good, and it wasn't like it was drudgery, but you would get pulled into these management offsites for this and that, and this kind of little after hours party and this and that. And at times, sometimes they were fun, sometimes they were just, let's get through this, let's get out the door as soon as possible. And we would joke with each other. We're like, we spend 50 hours a week with these people. I see these people more than I see my family, the people that I want to see. Why are you dragging me to more things? Why are you obligating me to more stuff? Oh boy, we've got an analogy here. It's coming from Ferris. Check out Ferris's videos. It's over on the Michigan channel. Smash the numbers. Ferris doing a heck of a job. All right. The Voice of College Football is like the show The Bear. First season was about one person, The Bear. The second season was about all the people at the restaurant, The Bear. I think that's a pretty fair analogy. First season of The Voice of College Football. YouTube is a very plain feature, but a very effective feature where you can go to any YouTube channel and you can see all the videos chronologically, or you can reverse it and you can see the oldest videos first. And yeah, my first probably 100 videos, for one thing, I didn't edit a thing. Number two, I didn't even know how to trim a video on my iPhone. Somebody had to show me to do that because I would just click, start talking, and hold it for 7 minutes. And I had one of those old iPhones. This was like an iPhone 3 at that point, which was not an old iPhone. It was just that long ago. And I think I actually had to hold the record the entire time. So I would talk for 10 minutes, 12 minutes. And then, so I remember my buddy Marty watching this and he's like, you don't even know how to trim these videos, do you? Or he said something like, I can help you trim them better. And I said, trim what? He said, you're serious? I said, yeah, that's a one take, baby. And that's right when we start. We got to hit it perfect because I'm not editing. We're a little bit more advanced than that. Not too much. Thank you for that, citizen. We need to hit the like button and need to subscribe. I do appreciate that. Florida State Seminoles live. So here's the rundown for the day. Buckeyes live at 11. Brian Driscoll live talking Notre Dame football at 12:30. Then we've got, I pulled the transfer portal update at 3. If something big happens, I'll jump on. We'll do a transfer portal update. Now, I know that I said we would do one every day through the end of the month. You know what happened yesterday? I was doing this, I was doing that. I had this meeting, that record, I was doing all this stuff. And we recorded Michigan podcast. That's right, at 3:15. We do that every Tuesday at 3:15. I was on Michigan podcast with Steve Day, so check it out. And I totally blanked because we've been doing the transfer portal update at 3 p.m. every day. I moved it to 4. I blanked on it. I got done with Steve Dace's show a little bit before 4, and I went out for a walk. Speaking of walks, and I'm on my walk, and I see it's like 4:08, and then it hits me. Oh, the transfer portal update. Sorry, everyone that showed up for the transfer portal update. I thought, should I rush back? And I was probably 15 minutes away from home, and I'm like, eh. So then once I looked at today's schedule with 8 a.m. live stream, 11, 12:30, 6, 7, and then anything else I want to get out there, which I'd like to get a recording out, a video posted every day. If you check out the one yesterday, please do. It's got about 7,000 views right out of the gate, so thank you for that. I'd like to get one video out per day, and we've not been able to keep up with that with all the other live streams going on all over the place. So if I do a video, we may just kick the portal update. I'll look to see if there's anything substantial there. But if we're talking about a bunch of kids that had 6 tackles last year and 1 catch for 12 yards, we may just kick that to the curb for right now. Here is the video that we were talking about with Sonny and Matthew. You get those two brains together, you got something. The Texas future and what the NFL draft has to say and indicate to us about the Texas future with Sark and company and all their resources and money and everything else. Answer me this question. Is the Texas football program, does the Texas football program have the highest ceiling of any football program in the country? I'm not asking you if it's been the most successful. That's an obvious no. It's not even been top 20 successful in the last 15 years. But does Texas, think of everything that means to you? When I think of that, I'm thinking recruiting, resources, facilities, money, brand, history, determination, meaning dedication by the administration, the school, the state, the fan base, the popularity of the fan base, the number of views they draw, all of that, put all of that together. Does Texas have the highest ceiling of any program in the country? Chat, go! Is it Texas? And if it's not Texas, is it somebody else that has the highest ceiling? I say this all the time. We have these conversations, especially on the USC channel. And this is sometimes to kind of placate my USC audience when they think I'm being a little bit too harsh or they just haven't achieved anything in a while and I'm trying to lift their spirits. But I truly believe this. So it's not, I'm not lying in their faces. I truly believe this. I just pick my spots to reiterate this. I truly believe that Ohio State has been the most successful program in the country on a consistent basis for, pick your time span, not for the last 10 or 15 years, because that would be Alabama. Ohio State would be number 2. But for the last 20 years, 50 years, 70 years, anything past World War II, it's Ohio State most consistently. Now, there's an argument there. There's no question. There's an argument. I'm not saying that it's not close, but I would argue Ohio State consistency in terms of being elite, the best in the country. But at their best, the best USC product, the best, most talented teams under John McKay in the 70s, under John Robinson in the late 70s, under Pete Carroll in the 2000s, that those are the highest ceiling teams in history multiple times. Not that there have not been one-year teams like the 2001 Miami Hurricanes that have not reached that level or maybe even surpassed it. A lot of people believe that the 2001 Miami team is the greatest of all time. It probably is the most talented and the best collection of NFL players in history. But in terms of being able to achieve that just incredible high ceiling elite status multiple times, I'm giving that award to USC. Consistency, Ohio State, peaks to USC. But is Texas that in the future? Let's see what you guys have to say, if anything. Thomas Hero says Texas has to deal with too many other good programs close by. when USC is rolling, they can get more talent. Good point, although it's a bit shifting in the Texas direction. So, for decades, best talent in the country, high school talent has come from where? Florida, Texas, California, almost evenly. However, California is not only is California doing one of these in so many other ways, from a football talent standpoint, California still great, still high, but if you look at the metrics of 4 and 5 stars, Georgia has now surpassed California. So it's Texas and Florida from that standpoint. But that is a very good point that USC has more controlled its area in its heyday than Texas, which has all those schools. But let's face it, other than Texas A&M, those other schools in Texas are not vying for the top players in Texas largely. Oklahoma goes in there, LSU goes in there, Ohio State to a certain degree, especially in the last 10 or 15 years, goes into Texas. So that's a good point there. Erica, Mark, Iowa gets the marks for developing low-level talent. Lots of the drafted Iowa players were 2 stars. 2 stars? Were they 2 stars? I don't think any question 3 stars. But regardless, you make a great point, and I totally agree with that Iowa, there's an argument there, but Iowa certainly, I don't think it's without question, but they are the first school that comes to mind when you talk about developing 3 stars into NFL players, developing less than blue chip recruits into NFL players. I believe Iowa is in the top 10 in the country in NFL players currently on NFL rosters. Iowa's like number 8 or 9. Well, Iowa does not recruit in the top 8 or 9 in the country. So that is development, especially tight end and defense, and in the past, offensive line. Joey is letting us know that the state of West Virginia is starting to develop some very good linemen as of late. Wet blanket. A lot of people believed 2001 Oklahoma was the greatest team ever. Huh? Coming off their natty and being undefeated until the last game of the season when the Pokes upset them 16-13. Okay? I have never heard that. But wet blanket, if you're telling us that, I do not remember anyone mentioning Oklahoma. I don't think there were hardly many people when Oklahoma won the national championship in 2000 that thought they were the best team in 2000. They were an underdog in the championship game. Iowa and Oklahoma State are similar. Yes, their records are similar. Take Mike Gundy, take Kirk Ferentz. The records are very similar. They are 8-4 over a large span of time. 8-4. And yes, they take underregarded, underevaluated talent, and they produce NFL players. Oklahoma State, I don't know where Oklahoma State ranks in terms of producing NFL players. Not as many as Iowa, for sure. Porter says that Miami was the best team in 2000. That's, of course, your opinion, and that's a reasonable opinion. Miami lost to Washington. Miami beat Florida State. So the situation, if you recall, in 2000, folks, was Oklahoma went undefeated. They played Florida State in the BCS championship game. Why did they play Florida State? Miami fans like to argue, well, we beat Florida State. I believe the score was 27-24. Why were we, Miami, not in the BCS championship game? And then Washington fans, they have every right to say, well, we beat Miami. And all three of those teams went 10-1. So I personally believe that Washington should have played in the national championship game against Oklahoma. Oklahoma was a pretty substantial underdog in that game against Florida State, and they made Florida State look silly. That was just a boring, for a national championship game. It was still relatively close, so it wasn't a blowout, but it was 13-2. And so they shut out Florida State. So all credit to Oklahoma, first of all, because I run into Miami fans all the time that say, we were the best team, we would have won the national championship and all that other business. Well, you lost. So what can I say? You can make those claims, but Oklahoma is clearly the national champion. There are other years I can make all sorts of arguments, many years for other teams having a claim to a national championship. That is not one of the years. In 2000, Oklahoma is the national champion. Porter, of course, is entitled to his opinion, and I'm not arguing with that opinion. He's probably maybe right. It's reasonable to think so because they did have the best team in 01, and they may have had the best team in 02. There's now, follow me here. Being the best doesn't always equate to who earned the championship. So in 2002, Ohio State clearly earned the championship. First of all, they played a much tougher schedule than Miami. Number two, they beat Miami, but Miami still might have been the best team. So in 2001-02, Miami might have been the best team, but they only won one championship and they only earned one championship. Adrian, I believe, is a Miami fan. Anytime we take polls going forward, informal polls like these, I should automatically just eliminate any fan base who's voting for their own team. That's going to take our informal polls down to like 0. Because if anything has just been proven to me time and time again is that I love our community, but you people are so incredibly biased that it is virtually impossible. Take no offense to this because there are some of you out there somewhere, I don't know where you are, there's a couple of you who are kind of in my mode of being able to say, okay, I'm a fan, I have my team, I'm going to filter that and remove that as much as it's possible, humanly possible to do that. I'm going to do that, and now I'm going to make evaluations. But man, I tell you, every time we get into these kind of conversations, people are so incredibly biased. It's amusing to me. Sometimes it's frustrating when I'm trying to have a reasonable conversation or make a reasonable point, and I have people say, USC was the national championship in 2003. Nobody came close to them. Well, no, they split a national championship with LSU, and we don't know who would have won the game. That is the logical conclusion to 2003. USC had a great team. They had a great season. LSU had a great team, loaded with NFL players, had maybe the greatest coach of all time. They had a great team. They had a great season. They did not play. We don't know. For anyone who ever tells me that they know who would have won a game between two like opponents, I was going to call you a name. I will not call you a name. you don't know what you're talking about. That is completely illogical. Now, can I say 2014 Ohio State would beat 2014 New Mexico State? Yeah, I think that's pretty reasonable to state that. We're not talking about like teams. No, the game wasn't played. We can't prove it. We can't prove it without a shadow of a doubt that New Mexico State could have possibly beaten Ohio State in 2014, that they could have beaten a national championship team, and New Mexico State was whatever they were that particular year, probably 3-9 and one of the worst teams in the country. We can't prove that, but that's unreasonable and ridiculous. No, we are talking about championship level teams with tons of talent. And when anybody says, oh, there's no way Nebraska would have lost to Michigan in 1997, or no way Michigan wouldn't have beaten Nebraska in 1997, that I know who would have won that game. No, you don't. I have no time to waste people's ears listening to that kind of rubbish and that kind of argument anymore. Anytime that goes forward in the future, I'm just going to cut that person off and say, you individual, it's typically a person. Erica, we appreciate you being here. Sharice, hopefully here. Sandra, anybody else? Cheryl, we would love to have a larger than 4%, 6%, whatever it is. YouTube, I'll look it up. It's between 4 and 6% female population here, but we so much love your contributions. But I'm technically talking to a guy. So I say, sir, I'm going to say this in the future, just simply, sir, you are incapable of holding a logical conversation on this topic. I'm sure you are on 1,000 other topics, but on this particular topic, you're a blank fan. Therefore, you are incapable, and you have proven incapable of being able to discuss this topic logically. By, because anyone who says this team would have definitely beaten this team, now I have no issue with you saying I believe that they would have won the game. I have no issue with that. Of course, we should all have opinions about what could have happened, what would have happened. Of course, you can evaluate this team versus that team and make a judgment call. Now, most of you are not doing that. You're just basing it on who you like better. Your favorite team, they would have won. So I've got to keep that in my mind for future reference. Anytime I run into somebody who gives me this ridiculous, they would have beaten them for sure. Again, that's your opinion. I believe they would have won the game. Fine, we'll continue the conversation. But there's no doubt they would have beaten them. Then you're just ridiculous at that point. I'm going to save you the embarrassment of the rest of the conversation. Sorry I went into that rant, because that was probably just for me and me alone. Joey, Mark, I saw your post on X about Ohio State versus the Big Ten. That was impressive by Ohio State. I think it was 173-30 against the Big Ten since 2000. And they actually had pretty rough seasons in 2001. So if you grind that, and then of course they had an interim coach in 2011. If you make it just Jim Tressel, Urban Meyer, and Ryan Day, that 173-30, the math is, hang on, 6, 13, and 11. Yes, that 173-30, that sounds so impressive. If you take away those seasons, and you don't, of course, they count. No, I preempt that because I know people are going to say, they all count. Mark, you're trying to make Ohio State look good. No, I'm just making a point. When they had Tressel, Meyer, and Day, if you just take those three coaches since 2002, that 173-30 becomes 160-19. So then it becomes even like it's 90 whatever percent that is, whatever it is. There it is. There's Ralph. Shows how bad the bottom of the Big Ten has been, truly bad. I guess you can look at it that way. But since 2000, Michigan, other than a 08 through 14, 7 years, so the other 17 years has been really good. Penn State has almost for that entire time been really, really good. Wisconsin, really, really good. They haven't done that. They haven't done anything close to that. So, yes, your point's correct, Ralph. It is, but nobody else is doing it. Big Ten usually been a top-heavy conference historically. I can't argue with that. However, I would say that typically applies to every conference. Generally, no people are going to come at me with certain examples out there, but there's usually a separation among every conference. Jackson's all over this one. Yes, I was on for 19 minutes and 24 seconds on the Michigan podcast. Steve Days, check it out. Okay, Ferris, I don't know what this means. I think he's just trolling. Yes, Ferris is just trolling because that's not a counterpoint. Yes, I think we all agree on that, Sandra. I think we all agree on that. Adrian says, but only 2 championships. 2 championships. Let's see. I made a post about Ohio State versus the Big Ten since 2000. 2 championships. 02, 05, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. Although they didn't technically win the Big Ten in 12, even though they were undefeated. 13, 14, 17, 18, 19. I'm counting 13 championships. Stop being fixated on national championships. Understand that they are manipulated to a certain extent. Yes, are they big? Are they massive? Are they the most important thing in college football? Yes, national championships are. But understand that they are skewed. Number one. Number two, I was talking about the Big Ten. Therefore, Ohio State's got 13 Big Ten championships. Is 2 national championships disappointing during that time? I guess because Ohio State fans want to win a national championship every year. There's not a year that I don't think. Now, my thought toward that is less and less and less and less because I care less and less and less every year. My amount of investment and care for Ohio State winning dwindles by the year. I still consider myself a big Ohio State fan, want them to win every game, but please don't misconstrue that I'm like devastated by any of this anymore. I've just grown way too old and been working in this field way too long and had way too many other things happen in my life that are much more important that, my devastation losing to Michigan in 1996 versus my devastation losing to Michigan last year, it's not even like it's a drop in the ocean. Did I want Ohio State to beat Michigan last year? Was I disappointed that they lost? Of course. I know, Adrian, you're talking national championship, but I wasn't talking about, there was nothing about that post that had anything to do with the national scene. So anyway, and then that's what's funny, because I brace myself, and I almost welcome and entertain and almost invite the trolls to come out when I post that, something like that. So I put the Ohio State records against everybody since 2000, because I know it's coming. I know two things are coming. The Michigan fans are just going to point out the last 3 years. They're going to make some snide remarks about the last 3 years. I know that's coming. So that post had nothing to do with the last. Did that post have anything to do with the last 3 years? No. But even more than that, I had a Florida State fan who pointed out that Florida State's 3-0 against Ohio State. Okay, why are you replying to a post about the Big Ten since 2000 with Florida State and games back in the 1980s? Okay, I know Florida State's all-time 3-0 against Ohio State. Make your own post. You can tweet. Feel free. You can tweet whatever you want. Why are you replying to my post that is specifically about the Big Ten since 2000, bringing some other team from the ACC into it and citing games from the 1980s? Like, feel free to post whatever you want. As long as it's factual, I would hope that it would be factual. Post whatever you want. That's a great question, Ferris, because I've been talking about this quite a bit recently, that the objective in college football is much different. Because I took to task a Michigan article recently, and you may have seen the video. I took them to task because I thought that the article was poorly written, for one thing. It was convoluted beyond belief, and it was really silly. It was about Ryan Day during the spring game talking about, we need to tighten this up, button this up, because we've come so close to reaching our goals the last few years. Completely accurate statement. Completely accurate statement. For somebody to dissect that to the nth degree is pathetic. That is a completely accurate statement. If they complete one more pass for like 32 yards last year, they are the number one seed in the playoff. That's their goal. And then who knows what would have happened toward winning a national championship. We don't know. And then in 2022, of course, they kick a field goal and they win the national championship. So yes, they have come within one play of reaching their goals the last few years. So anyway, back to this. I was making this statement, and we've had the conversation here ever since the 12 team was announced, that the Ohio State-Michigan game in particular, and other games, the world is calling me. Whoever they are, we cannot talk to them. So anyway, yes. So back to, I've lost my train of thought because people are calling. Yes, I have made the... So anyway, we've talked about it in recent weeks, months, since the new playoff field was expanded and announced, that depending on your program, depending on your goals, for one thing, the Ohio State-Michigan game will never be the same. It will never be the same. Again, I had pushback and argument. I am not determining or telling you how to feel about it. You can feel however you want about it. If the Ohio State-Michigan game still holds just as much importance to you, then that's the answer. That is your personal answer, that it holds to. And for fans of other teams, whatever game, whatever situation that you have held near and dear to your heart, if you have aspirations of winning a national championship, that game, that situation has been diminished significantly. So I'm talking logically, logistically, in a practical sense. In terms of your emotions and attachment and how valuable that game is to you personally, that is between just you and you. That is all determined by you and your emotions. I'm talking about in a practical sense, the Ohio State-Michigan game has been diminished significantly. It will never be the same. Never be the same. Will there be years in which one or both of those teams need to win to reach a Big Ten championship game? Of course. Will there be years in which one or both of those teams need to win to reach the playoff? Yes. There will be those years that one of those two teams will come into the game, or both, 9-2, and we will think, we won't know because it's not the NFL where we can add it all up and it's plain. No, we've got to rely on some stupid committee to tell us who's making the playoffs. Let's not get started on that today. Some idiotic committee. I'm not calling them idiots. The concept of the committee is idiotic to select who makes the playoffs. So again, man, if I could only discipline myself and remember to discipline myself to call this really what it is. It's an invitational. It continues to be an invitational. It's not a playoff. It's an invitational. Did you get invited? It's not a playoff. It's an invitational, first and foremost. I've been saying that since day one, since 2014. It's an invitational. So that all depends on each individual person. For me, the 20-year-old, the 25-year-old, even 35-year-old Mark, 40-year-old Mark, maybe would have never thought I would have stated this, but in 1986, I would rather have beaten Michigan than win the national championship. Not even close. Beating Michigan was the most important goal of each year. For me, at least, and I think most Ohio State fans. But today, it's about winning a national championship. In 2022, if Ohio State would have kicked a 50-yard field goal and won the national championship, I would have been completely satisfied with that. Now, Michigan fans would have been able to troll the entire offseason and say, we beat the national champions. We beat you. You still couldn't beat us. And that would have been completely valid. That would have been completely valid. One of the best things that could have happened for our little channel here would have been for Ohio State to win that national championship in 2022, because it would have created this just complete conflict where Ohio State just won the national championship, but Michigan beat them. So it would have been beautiful to sit back and watch all of you argue about that. But it didn't happen. No, it's about winning in the playoffs. It's about winning in the playoffs. And yes, it has become more like college basketball, although it, of course, is still much more important who wins the games during the season as opposed to being whoever those teams are now. I don't watch college basketball. Villanova, North Carolina, Kentucky, whoever they are that can lose 8 games, 9 games, 10 games, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. And who cares? You're a 3 seed, you're a 4 seed, you're a 1 seed. Yes, I know that it affects it somewhat, but it's really not. The college basketball season is really not that important. So college football, from an importance standpoint and from a balance standpoint, it's actually a good balance of maintaining importance in the regular season, You can't slop through and go 7-5. It's not the NFL and go to the playoffs. You still have to be an excellent team, but it just doesn't mean you have to be perfect and that every game is crucial. What fans do we have from outside the Big Ten and the SEC? I am sorry to all of you. You have to be more perfect. You are going to have to be, your teams are going to have to be more perfect against your schedule. Joey, if you're still with us, West Virginia is going to just have to be, from a record standpoint, they just have to be better. Because those conferences, whether real or just perceived, we know it's perceived. Is it real? It will be. It is, but it's got to be played out on the field. There's no comparison between these conferences anymore. There's two great conferences, and I believe the SEC is still better, but that remains to be seen too. It's very close. And then there's the other two conferences. And there's two schools that can win a national championship out of those other conferences. There's a 90-some% chance this year that the national champion is going to come from the SEC or the Big Ten. There is about a 3% chance that Clemson or Florida State can win a national championship. Nobody else is winning a national championship. Miami has potential to win a national championship. There is no one in the Big 12 who's winning a national championship. I'm sorry, your season's over. If all you care about is national championship, there's nobody in the Big 12 who's winning a national championship. If you would like to risk a large portion of money, I am willing to wager that over the next 10 years, the Big 12 is not winning a national championship. Nobody in the Big 12 can win a national championship. Sorry. Things would have to drastically change. And there are no indications that those things are changing. The indications are all that they're continuing to trend in the other direction. So there's nobody in the Big 12 who's winning a national championship. I have eliminated the Big 12 from the national championship race this year. It might be the most fun conference to watch, top to bottom. And hopefully they should get 2 entries into the Invitational. I would think the champion, and they should get one other in. Although, look at last season. Oklahoma might have made it, and they didn't even make the conference championship game. Somebody stated on here the other day, I don't remember who it was, that Oklahoma State would have been in the playoff last year. No, they wouldn't have been in the playoff last year. Their 9-4 season was not getting them into the playoff after they just lost by 4 touchdowns in the Big 12 championship game. The rankings showed that. So let's see if we have any irate. Who wins the Big 12? That's a great question, because I still love Big 12 football. I still love Big 12 football. I still think it's entertaining. I love the competitive nature, and I love the top to bottom. I love the top to bottom competitiveness that does not exist in the other conferences. And Big 12 fans would tell you, well, we don't have an Indiana, we don't have a Vanderbilt, we don't have a this, we don't have a that. No, that's not really true. You do have those teams. They just don't have to run into elite teams and get crushed. You take the worst teams in the Big 12 last year, Houston. Houston was terrible. Cincinnati was terrible. They would have gotten steamrolled in the SEC and the Big Ten. Indiana, Rutgers, Illinois, they would join this competitive field in the Big 12, and they would fit right in. They would not be down at the bottom of that conference. I'm not saying that they would compete for championships, But Indiana, Illinois, Rutgers, let's take those three from the Big Ten. They're not getting trounced in the Big 12. I think some Big 12 fans get that misconstrued as well. They would be competitive in the Big 12. They would do just fine. Ralph says, Utah if Cam plays what? That they can win a national championship? I would love to see Utah win the national championship this year. That would completely turn over most of my thoughts about where we're headed in college football. If Utah could somehow win a national championship, but they are not winning, the Big 12, yes. Utah probably wins the Big 12. Utah is the class of the Big 12, I believe. Yeah, I think they are the clear-cut favorite. For a league that is so balanced otherwise, they are the clear-cut favorite. Yeah, and Nick, of course, as a Michigan fan, would say it would have been hilarious if TCU actually beat Ohio State. And so going back to my earlier point is it's completely logical to say Ohio State would have won that game because they would have. However, they did not play. The two teams did not play, so we don't know. And TCU beat Michigan. Nick, what's amusing about your comment is what would have been hilarious is what, I'm sure a lot of people in the chat are saying what was hilarious, not what would have been hilarious, but what was hilarious was what? All right. Oh boy. We need to get with it. We didn't hit the headlines, and I think there's nothing in the headlines, to tell you the truth. Let's see what we got. This top article here, we will do a much better job by just saying, hey, if you want more on the NCAA in talks to settle NIL antitrust case, check out our latest video. It's all right there. I can't say anything more about it. It's all right there. When the number 2 headline on ESPN for this fine Wednesday morning is ex-Arkansas quarterback Jacoby Criswell returns to North Carolina. Jacoby Criswell is a lifetime backup quarterback, started at North Carolina. He was a highly touted quarterback coming out of high school, goes to Arkansas, goes back to North Carolina. This is inconsequential. He's going to be the backup at North Carolina. This is our headline. And then all the other items, they're old news from yesterday. So those are the headlines today. So I don't know what the analogy is here or the correlation to, of course, again, opening up the morning headlines, checking out this would have been like, to me, well, when I was in the heyday of being a sports fan, I loved all of it. So the NBA, college basketball, even in the middle of February, I'm into the sports page, into it. But football, baseball, my passions and loves from a child, basketball was down. That was my dead period to an extent. Again, I loved college basketball, watched it all the time, and the NBA. So there was really no downtime to my entire year. But if there was, it was post Super Bowl into spring training. That period was, so this is one of those days. This is a day in my childhood of February, early March headlines. Because once opening day of baseball season started, forget it. That was good enough for me. I was good with just baseball being on all the time. But I don't watch the sport anymore. My buddy reminds me about every other day what the Indians, whatever their name is now, the Guardians record is every day because they're off to a hot start. But I don't know any of those folks on the team anymore. All right, folks, and I apologize again. I made mention at the top that the wireless mic, I don't know what the deal is, what's going on there. So I will trail off since we've got the other mic here. What am I going to have for breakfast? I am not what I said. You probably couldn't hear me. What am I going to have for breakfast? I am not in the mood for bacon and eggs. Don't want it. I've got 18 eggs in there, and maybe I don't even have bacon. That's right. I don't even have bacon. I ate the end of the bacon yesterday, so no bacon. Got plenty of eggs. I'm not eating eggs today. Don't want them. Sick of them. No eggs for me today. I've got a little bit of cereal, but I do have almond milk. I could have a little bit of cereal. That's going to be it. A little bit of cereal. I've got some of this plain yogurt that just, I'll stop shy of calling it disgusting because it's not disgusting. It just, I like some flavor there. I like the vanilla yogurt, but the vanilla yogurt has like 3 times as much sugar in it. So there's a summary on the breakfast. I guess it's going to be a small bowl of cereal and maybe some yogurt. I don't want eggs. I will force them down in future days. I've gone south on eggs recently, just sick of them, had them way too often. Although I say that today, but about 2 days ago, I made some eggs and I made them perfect. Scrambled eggs that were just, for some reason, they were just turned out perfect. And I was like, oh, these are good. All right, Nick says you should make blah, 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 some kind of quiche. Again, here's the way this works, folks. If you've got a menu item for us here at the Voice of College Football for our segment, What's for Breakfast, Mark? Then certainly send the super chat or Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App, a much more effective way. So cover the cost of the items that you would like for me to make. And there we go. That's the way we work with that. We appreciate that. So again, from the very simplest item, you want me to try a particular type of bagel, donut, toast, whatever it is, all the way up to, hey, Mark, we're going to make you open up the cabinets, clear out the cabinets with mixing bowls and all sorts of stuff. We can do that as well. Megan, thank you last week for your contribution that led to the vegan smoothie. And so that was Megan's request. And so we fulfilled that item. So if you've got a request for me, a breakfast menu item that you would like to see me make or partake in, let me know. Let me know. So thank you for those. What are we guessing? 150-ish. Smoothie. Could be. We can go the smoothie route. I've got enough stuff for smoothies. Ralph. Oh, that's for the chat. That's not for me. Can I answer, Ralph? I'm going to wait for Ralph's response. Am I allowed to answer? I believe I do know the exact number. Yes. Am I allowed to answer, Ralph? Or is this simply for the chat? Somebody said 150-ish. Somebody said 150-ish, and that's all I see there. Okay, I'm ready. Okay. The number of studio recordings, I believe the number is, I don't want to get this confused with the number of Babe Ruth home runs, which was 714. I believe it was 711 was the number of studio recordings. And then if we're talking about concert recordings, well, at this point, almost every concert the man ever did, at least from 69 when he came back through 77, are out there on YouTube. They're bootleg copies. And so you could go into all sorts of probably 12 or 1,300 songs that are recorded live. For example, Proud Mary. Elvis never recorded Proud Mary in the studio, but he did it regularly in concert, 1970, 71, 72, even into like 74. So you can either count that or not count that. But if we're talking about studio recordings, I'm almost positive the number is 711. Did I hit it? Yes. The number I'm almost positive is 711 studio recordings. But man, you've got some of the best songs he ever sang, he never recorded in the studio. Polk Salad Annie, Proud Mary, Never Been to Spain, Ralph's All 786. So then there's also a discrepancy there because, for example, I'm watching this guy that does Elvis reactions, and he knew nothing about Elvis like a year ago, and he just decided to do the chronological order of songs. Well, he's off doing home recordings and all this other stuff. So, and that stuff's been released on albums. So if you're going to include Elvis singing Mona Lisa, this guitar sitting on his bed that got recorded that they threw on an album, then yeah. Or I love the rendition of him singing I Can't Help It If I'm Still in Love with You, but he's in the Army, he's just playing his guitar, singing, not meant for public consumption and release. Yes, that might have driven that number to 786, but I'm almost positive 711 is the recorded studio amount. Yes, Polk Salad Annie's a great song. Tony Joe White, the author. But you got to see Elvis perform it, and you got to see the right versions of it. But yes, and I had quite the exchange with somebody on Twitter yesterday concerning the King, who didn't like to be called the King, but I can't help it sometimes. French toast, yes, French toast. If somebody has a request for French toast, we will take that. Absolutely, Michael. Michael, you'll want to join us at 12:30 Eastern. We've got Brian Driscoll here to talk Notre Dame football and college football across the board. All right, folks, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you. And we will see you at 11 a.m. for Buckeyes Live right here at the Voice of College Football.